Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bad for Baseball, the baddest baseball podcast on the internet, presented to you by Betway. I'm Adam Peddle, joined alongside Nicholas Paleolog. We've got some interesting updates. Is Pete Alonso potentially going back to the New York Mets? And are the Toronto Blue Jays the favorites for Max Scherzer? And as well, a bunch of other little moves in the reliever market happened yesterday that are pretty interesting with some teams that really haven't done a whole lot this offseason, but maybe this changes things for them. We'll get into it all and more, but before we do, Nick, how you doing?
I'm good, but I'm also fed up. I'm fed up that we are still talking about Pete Alonso.
I'm tired of it.
Still talking about Alex Bregman. I'm not as upset about Max Scherzer because now he's finally getting his time and time in the spotlight. But these other two boys, It's been going on now for months, and I get it. You're waiting it out. This is your time. This is your one big payday, all that shit. You're not only getting rich, but your kids might be getting rich, depending on what type of contract you sign and everything like that. But if we went through all this rigmarole, all of these podcasts, all this discussion, looking at this report, looking at that report, just so Pete Alonso can go back to the Mets, or alternatively, Alex Bregman can go back to the Astros,
I know. Well,
Come on.
Well, I think we can blame one person on this. There's a common denominator that's always there every offseason. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Of course, it's Scott Boras.
Scott Boras. Alex Bregman's rep by Scott Boras. You've got, and like you said, Max Scherzer really hasn't been in the limelight. He's only going to pay like $15 million.
No, I don't.
He's also rep by Scott Boras, and then also you got Pete Alonso. Now you're seeing this web kind of being drawn between them all, being Scott Boras saying, well, if he goes here, then he goes there, and blah 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 blah. Especially when it involves the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it just feels like he's playing these games, and I thought we learned from last offseason, Scott. I thought last offseason we learned that we can't be playing these games and getting shitty deals for your clients, but here we are again.
Well, he is also fresh off the $765 million deal with Soto, so I feel like he's feeling himself right now, man. Actually, I do wonder. I'll look it up in a second, but what do you think Scott Boras' net worth is?
Oh,
it's got to be fucking crazy, eh?
It's got to be this dude. I wouldn't be shocked if it was the same number as the contract of
honestly,
of
I wouldn't be shocked if it's more than that. I'm going to look that up in a second, but you continue with what it is that we're talking about here.
Well, yeah, so Scott Boras obviously going to be a big topic of conversation in this one. We'll get to him in a bit, but let's first kick things off with the Pete Alonso thing. We were talking about it all week. I mean, how Nick said, we're talking about it all offseason. But how, Steve Cohen came out and said, it's exhausting talking to Pete Alonso and Scott Boras. He didn't say that directly, but we all know who he's talking about. And that they were kind of drawing the line in the sand and saying, well, we'll leave the door open, but we're not really feeling too, urgent that we're going to get a deal done or anything like that. And now things are kind of changing. Over the weekend, apparently, Mets owner Steve Cohen, right, he kind of went back on his word a little bit, and apparently the talks have been picking up again with Pete Alonso and the Mets. But again, they're kind of drawing a line in the sand at the $70 million mark for 3 years with not many opt-outs. And we talked about it before. Pete Alonso, if he really wants to be a New York Met, which is apparently the word out there, he really wants to be a New York Met, he's going to have to accept whatever offer the Mets give him. That's just the reality. If they are really stubborn on their dollar, then he kind of has to take it. What do you think? Do you think things change maybe on the Mets side of things?
I don't know why they would, right? Okay, you're at January 30th right now. Are you telling me that you've just spent the last several months trying to do some ploy to lower the price? I don't know, man. That just feels like there's so much risk involved, especially when you're dealing with somebody like a Pete Alonso. I think that what you are willing to spend, and he knows what he's willing to sign for, and those two things right now aren't aligned. Mm-hmm. I get the sense after listening to Steve Cohen over the weekend and all the other reports coming out of New York. I just get the sense that they're not really budging that much. Maybe if he drops down, I don't know, $20 million, they'll move up $5, but it just feels like they're kind of reaching their cap right now. They're reaching their limit, and if he's not willing to play within that ballpark, then he's got to look elsewhere. Like the Blue Jays, like the Mariners if they get involved, like anyone else really. But if all you want to do is go play with the Mets, you're going to have to take a team-friendly deal.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have to. And when I look at what he was supposed to make this offseason, $70 million for 3 years? Like, that is way below than what his market value was originally being priced at, which was like $150 million for 6 years or 7 years or whatever. Man, if that happens, like, yeah, I know you want to go play for the Mets, but isn't that just the biggest loss for Alonso? Like, do you think he's capping himself?
Yeah, a little bit. But it's all about what do you value? What is more worth it to you?
Right.
You know, I saw this and like there was a moment of time where I was like, oh, you bastard. Because Jeff Passan went on to one of the shows and was talking about, I think it was Pete Alonso. It was either Pete Alonso or Alex Bregman. I can't remember. One of the two. But anyways, he was talking about how some of the other suitors, I think it was Big Pete, because he was talking about the Angels and he was talking about the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And he was saying it's like, okay, you want to go to those two teams, like that's totally fine. You'll get paid more, but like let's face facts right now. Like, you know, they might not even make playoffs, those guys.
What are you talking about?
Right? Whereas like, you know, the New York Mets, it probably will make playoffs. And, you know, I read that as a Blue Jays fan. I'm like, like F you, Jeff Passan. But he's speaking facts, right? Like, ultimately, the odds of us making playoffs are significantly lower than the New York Mets making playoffs. And that's just the way of it.
And I guess, like, too, I'm trying to think of the incentive of making playoffs, but, like, you actually do get a little bit more money if you do make playoffs and go on a deep run, but not that much more. It's like, a few $100,000 here and there. But point being, you got to ask yourself, what is you're right, what do you value? If you value money, like, you can go easily make it with those guys, right? And are you, if to look at it this way, too, how much less money am I getting if I sign with the Mets? And am I willing to pay that amount of money to make playoffs? Or have the chance to make playoffs? And a good chance, too. Because that's really what it is. Let's say, I don't know, just throwing out a number right here, it's $15 million less guaranteed money to go play for the Mets. Do I want to spend $50 million to live out my dream and playing in the World Series and the playoffs or winning World Series? That's what you got to ask yourself.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Ultimately, I mean, look, Pete Alonso is still a very, very talented player, and I don't want all this to happen just so he does go back to New York. I would love to see him go elsewhere, like if we're going to go through all this shit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is concerning to me to see that they are now engaging in conversations again, because does that mean that New York is coming back to the table with a bit of a different offer? Maybe. I still think that they're pretty stubborn as to where they are stuck, at a certain number, but only time will tell.
Yeah, well, if Scott Boras is making a lot of money, did you find out his net worth?
So there's a lot of different speculation on it. The number that people keep spitting out right here is roughly $450 to $500 million. But there's also been like some other reports out here that are like, billions.
Yeah, this guy could be a billionaire.
Very easily, actually. I think that this is the most interesting thing, though. So that there was something right here that said, for example, between September 2017 and September 2018, so in the span of one offseason, the 2017 to 2018, he negotiated contracts worth $1.88 billion. And so in that year, his commission on those deals was $105 million.
Oh my god!
So in the year of 27, in that one-off season,
more than
he made $105 million in commission.
That's insane.
So it's a lot of fucking money, man.
It is. Well, like you said, or what I was gonna say is like if Scott Boras is already making a shitload of money, what's the difference of an extra couple million of commission for him?
But that's not the way that he looks at it, though.
I mean, I know we're normal people. We're like, you're already making. I mean, how much commission has he already made this offseason?
Probably a shitload.
Probably similar to that number right there. So you got to. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, if I was him, at the end of the day, like you're my last kind of client. Maybe it could be. He could be going down literally to the wire. There's talks he could go into literally March into spring training. Whatever. Just go sign wherever. It's gonna be not much of a difference. Go play with the team that you want to play for, and we'll talk later. So that's kind of the latest on Pete Alonso and the New York Mets. We'll see. We'll monitor it. Hopefully, we don't have to talk about it too much longer. However, I'm hoping that we don't talk about Max Scherzer too much longer, because apparently the Blue Jays think they're the favorites to land them. They're the front runners, apparently.
Right.
And this was an article coming out from, I think it was Mark Feinstein. Yes, it was. How he kind of titled this, "Has a front runner emerged to sign Scherzer?" And again, this was a quote not directly from the Toronto Blue Jays organization, but this is a quote from a source that Mark Feinstein has, which we don't know where this source is from, saying Toronto has been hot on him for about 2 months. The Blue Jays certainly feel like they're the favorites to get him. Now, that's somebody speaking for the Blue Jays, so it's not them directly. But we've talked about it a little bit before. Max Scherzer to the Blue Jays. I mean, there were some things hinging on the idea of him coming here where the Blue Jays need to go add it a Pete Alonso or a Profar, which is no longer on the board. They need to do something else to convince him to come here. Where are you kind of at with the whole Max Scherzer thing? Do you think that it's actually possible for the Jays to get him?
Sure, yeah, because, I mean, like, the whole argument's about, like, leverage is going on here, all that stuff. Nobody's leveraging Max Scherzer.
No.
You know, like, that's just not – I'm sorry, dude. Like, you're no longer at that caliber where there is any leverage plays. Like, it's just not the way of it anymore.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, ultimately, and we've discussed this, like, for Pete Alonso, it comes down to, well, do you want to take a pay cut and, go play for the Mets or, get paid a bunch over here? For Max Scherzer, it's, do you want to get paid anything or retire? And, that's the decision that he's weighing right now because the guy has made a shitload of money. So ultimately, like, all of the conversations around him is the team competitive enough to potentially go on a run? Like, will him coming here make a difference? In the Blue Jays case, it's getting closer with every passing day and every offseason move. It feels like that team is becoming a little bit more competitive. However, this is what happens in the offseason where, you start to look, you forget about the regular season.
Yeah.
And then you start playing through things and looking at things through rose-colored glasses, right? It happens to everybody. I look at the Chicago Bears every offseason. This happens, right? You forget by the time that you get to the next season, you start forgetting what happened the previous season. And, all these offseason moves, like, oh, fuck, we're all the way back, when really, actually, no, you're not. So I do worry about that with Toronto. But I mean, of course, having Max Scherzer would significantly improve that team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they need a sixth starter that would add a lot of innings to them. And again, like looking at Max Scherzer and looking at the market where it's at right now, there aren't many juggernauts that are clear contenders that really need a Max Scherzer. Like the Dodgers don't really need him. The Yankees don't really need him. The Mets actually might, but I don't know if he's willing to go back to the Mets. I don't really know. Maybe, actually, he might go back to the Mets. We'll see. But there's not many clear contenders that really need another starter. I mean, yes, maybe there's the Braves that could use him, but a lot of the teams are fringe kind of playoff teams. So if he's not getting offers from those clear-cut guys and he doesn't really want to take a risk from these fringe guys that may not make playoffs, because that's his whole motto. Like I want to be competitive, I want to make playoffs, I want to have another chance at the ring. If you're not seeing any good offers from a guaranteed team, then go ahead and retire. But I don't think Max Scherzer would, just knowing how competitive he is. I feel like he still wants to get, because there's always been a rivalry between him and Justin Verlander. Like Justin Verlander signs with the Giants, 1 year, $15 million. Like he wants to sign with another team, probably for a similar deal, and see who can have the better year on a better team. And we'll see if that's the Blue Jays.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, again, potentially that's part of it. I don't know.
I read somewhere that that's where people knowing Max Scherzer, he wants to kind of outduel Verlander in a little bit. They're really? They go back from the Tigers, right?
Right.
They grew up with the Tigers. They've kind of gone their separate ways. They've always been in the same category, and who's gonna outduel who? Like they're both kind of those competitors, right?
Yeah. Who's better in terms of their career?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
That's a good question. Actually.
They're really fucking close.
I mean, let me pull it up right now. We got Max Scherzer's stats. Well, let's look at some of the accolades right off the top. 3-time Cy Young Award winner, Max Scherzer. I think Verlander's also.
I think they're both 3 times.
I think so as well. What's the career stats here? Give me 1 second. So you got a career ERA for Max Scherzer of 3.16. Very good. 2,800 innings pitched. How many strikeouts? 3,400. Justin Verlander, 3-time Cy Young. Verlander has an MVP. Verlander has an MVP, Rookie of the Year, Triple Crown. Way more accolades on Verlander's side of things. A little bit higher ERA, way more innings pitched, and very similar strikeouts. That's a close one, honestly. That's where you kind of at. Where do you think 80 WAR for Verlander, 75 for Scherzer?
I'll tell you right now. It looks to me that like Max Scherzer is the better player. And honestly, the stat that I'm looking at the most right here is that WHIP is significantly lower than Justin Verlander's, and
the ERA is lower.
ERA is lower, and you got a shitload more strikeouts compared to the innings. So I think Max Scherzer is or at least was, probably still is actually.
Yeah, I think
the better player.
Yeah.
But there was an element of Justin Verlander might have been on some better teams than Scherzer, and also maybe how he got more years than Scherzer?
I think Scherzer's got 17. He's got 19.
He's got two more
Verlander's
years. So
got the longevity kind of going for him. He's 40. I think they're both the same.
I don't know. If I had to, like, if I knowing all of this, if I had to like choose one of them at the beginning of their career, I might choose Scherzer personally. But I mean, it's pretty damn close.
They're very
it's pretty
even.
damn close.
It all depends on, I guess, what you value, like who accomplished more. Really, I mean, you could argue he pitched more, but really, like, and he has a little bit more accolades. Justin Verlander, like, he's got the ERA titles too. They both have the same World Series.
Also, get fucked, dude. This guy decided to win MVP in the year that Bautista had 43 bombs.
Are you looking at that?
OPS of 1.05. I'm just like, whenever you see a pitcher win MVP, it's like, you know, they either need to go in nuclear insane mode or, like, you know, it was a weak year elsewhere. And, like, he was good. He had a 2.4 ERA.
Yeah.
But, like, honestly, like, is that MVP worthy?
Right.
I think really what it was, 24 wins.
20.
That's what did
that's
it,
because
dude.
back in the day they
really valued the wins.
I remember there was one guy. Oh my God, Dallas Keuchel when he was on Houston. He was 15-0, and they're like MVP.
Yeah,
like what the hell?
Exactly. You know, so like honestly, I think that's got more to do with the MVP for Verlander than anything else. Granted, 251 innings is nothing. That's nothing
insane.
to scoff at.
You never like. I mean, we've seen that a couple times recently, but like, fuck, you never see 250 innings, like
not anymore.
Much.
No,
anymore.
like a lot of these numbers too, like, you know, because both him and Scherzer, you know, when they were getting into the 230s and all that stuff pretty regularly. That's just, I don't know if that's ever gonna happen again. No, you know, it feel like because like Tariq Skubal, who was again like basically unhittable all of last year. You know, like looking at his year right now. From last season, what did he finish at ERA wise? I'm gonna look 2.39. So that's the thing. He had a better WHIP and a better ERA than Verlander's MVP year, but he only pitched 192 innings because they just don't let them go anymore.
I'm looking at Chris Sale too, and I get it. He was older. I mean, Chris Sale's still like 35 actually, so like, you know, still younger than these other dudes, right? But he only pitched 177 innings, and he won, you know, the Cy Young and. That's it. I mean, hell, he even had Paul Skeens. Yes, Paul Skeens is awesome, and he came up like midway through the year. But he had like 120 innings or something like that. Like, and he was up there for Cy Young conversations. It's just different.
They just don't let them. They don't let them go, man. Like that third time through the order is like, okay, like we don't care who you are.
You give up one base runner.
Yeah,
or two,
yeah. You get it. It's a walk. It's a hit. Bang. You're out of here. Whereas like previously that never happened.
Yeah.
And, I don't know.
You got an old time manager or something like that, right? That can like just says F it.
Either way, interesting thought experiment right there, guys. You let us know in the comments down below if you had to do it all over again or just right now, you know, looking at both of their careers, Verlander or Scherzer, who is better? It's really tight. Honestly, I can see arguments for both sides. I'm going the slight edge to Max Scherzer, but again, pretty damn close. Both of them first ballot, no questions asked, Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely right. Actually, I want to jump off that Blue Jays train because we heard about this yesterday. I didn't even send you this, but I know you know of it. There was a report from Pat Ragazzo. Pat Ragazzo. I think he's from New York, Mets Yankees reporter, Mets insider. Okay. This is what came out yesterday, and I want to talk about it here on this podcast about the Toronto Blue Jays. This is a report. Toronto's goal is to land 2 of the 3 names on the open market in Scherzer, Alonso, and third baseman Alex Bregman. What do you make of that? Like, is that kind of more or less? Because we were going to talk about the whole Scott Boras thing, and this came out, and a lot of people kind of reacted like this is Boras trying to spin that the Blue Jays are going to land them again, and blah 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 blah.
Okay, here's the thing. I don't know if I do wonder, like, are reports like this coming out about other teams, or is it just because we are Toronto Blue Jays fans and like we have a Blue Jays podcast that like we see all of this stuff?
I did see stuff about. I mean, we've seen a lot about the Red Sox, not just from Mick, but like other people too have been kind of like pushing. Like, Red Sox are gonna get Alex Bregman and all of this, and then that's really picking up, and and then obviously it hasn't really come to fruition. So like I think. I don't know, maybe. Like,
I wonder because, like, okay, let's be completely honest with ourselves right here. Like, I mean, this is nice, and like, we'll make a video on it for our Blue Jays channel when the time comes. But ultimately, like, shouldn't a lot of other teams' goal be
Right,
to land
exactly.
these? You know,
Exactly. And, like,
I mean, I guess like the biggest news there is that they're trying to land 2 of them,
Right.
and maybe that isn't the case for some other squads.
But it's still a goal.
It's
You know, it's
exactly
still a
right.
goal.
Like I'm sure that the Mariners have a goal of unless they're just like not even trying.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but like you got to imagine
like the
that.
Padres.
Yeah, like if you're just not even trying, okay, I guess your goal isn't to sign one of these guys. But I would imagine like even the LA Dodgers may have checked in on some of the. In fact, I think they did check in on Scherzer. I saw a report about that a couple days ago that they were looking at Scherzer.
Right.
You know, so it's okay. Yeah, like the goal is to do that. Do I think the Blue Jays are going to accomplish that goal? Probably not, because again, like that's a lot of hoops that you got to jump through, and that means that you are going to overspend. That is exactly what that means.
Yeah,
so
I take that as the same. Honestly, the same thing as like if the Blue Jays came out and said our goal is to win the World Series this year. It's like, okay, great. Well, no shit. My goal is to be 6'10" and jacked, but that's not gonna happen. You know, like that's what I kind of make of it. Like it's just kind of throwing it out there in the media, and I you're right. Like I do wonder, like, are other names getting tossed around like this that are, in on all these guys that could be used as leverage? I mean, what other teams kind of are there? There would be the Giants. I mean, they're always tossed around, and the Red Sox this season. It's like it feels like if you're not that top team like the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees, you're kind of being always tossed around in these articles as like, the Blue Jays have been tossed around this year.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, like, honestly, the Red Sox, like, I don't want to say I feel bad for them this offseason because it's like, like we've been through it so many times, but it does feel like they're getting their fill of it right now.
They are.
And already too. It's like if you're a Red Sox fan, like it's already kind of started for next offseason because if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. doesn't get extended, like already people are talking about how it's like, oh, that's gonna be the team that's like going hard in on Guerrero. And I agree. Like I actually think out of all the squads, assuming New York doesn't lose their Mets lose their fucking minds, I think out of all the squads, like Boston like checks a lot of boxes for me, makes a lot of sense. So if they don't end up getting him, they're gonna get blue balled again, and we're not even there yet.
And if the Mets if they don't get Alonso back on that 3-year deal, then like that's a perfect placement right there.
That'd be insane.
That's perfect. I mean,
if the New York Mets actually ended up with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Juan Soto on the same team, like that's when I genuinely believe that you need to as MLB step in, because you'd be looking at 2 guys. Like it's actually pretty simple math here. You'd be looking at 2 players on your team that would have alone an average annual value that is higher than maybe half of other baseball teams.
Yeah.
Because you'd be paying them what, $120 million collectively, roughly something like that. And there's several baseball teams out there that their whole payroll, it would be less than those 2 contracts alone.
I liked what we had Shai Davidian on the Blue Jays Today podcast yesterday, and I liked what he brought up where, well, like, if you really want to beat the Dodgers, that's how you do it. Like, you have to, get that top 3 loaded up, right? Like, Ohtani, I know it's all deferred money, but, like, still, it's $70 million per year. And then Mookie Betts is $35 million per year. And then Freddie Freeman is, what is he? He's 27. So, like, there's a little bit lesser extent. But, if you look at Frankie Lindor, Juan Soto's going to be, he's $60 million per year. And then Vladdy would be like, I don't know, 35, 40.
Is he 60? Is that how the
I think
deferred
that's how it
math
kind of
works?
came out. Yeah, let me actually, I have it right here. Let me switch over to it. But I'm pretty sure it's 60 because you got New York Mets. Yeah, Juan Soto 61. It's all kind of scrambled. Like 1 year 61, and it's 57, then the 46.
Okay, so on average, like $60 million a year.
60, 55, something like that. And then you got Frankie Lindor on a 34. That for a long, long time. We forget it's beyond 2031. And then Vladdy would be, we don't know yet, but 35, 40, you got to imagine, something like that.
Yeah, like that's insane, man. The fact that they'd be spending, just like it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
I know.
I actually saw this the other day too. The Juan Soto contract, the total contract, the number of it, $765 million. That's more than like all of the total values of the Atlanta Braves lineup.
No.
Yeah,
way.
like,
you mean average annual value?
No, I mean like all of the,
the
all
total
of it.
value.
Yeah, like
all
of it.
all their contracts.
Yeah, like I saw it
Holy
because it's
fuck.
like, you got Acuna like at 110 or something like
Bro, I
that.
gotta
I'd
look
have
at
to
this.
find like Olsen at like 180 or something like that. I have to find the graphic again,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
like it included like all these different guys, and it's like, when you put it that way, it's like, okay, who would I rather have?
Wow.
Acuna, Olsen,
Yeah.
Albies, Ozuna, Michael Harris, like all of them,
Wow.
or just fucking Juan Soto, and it's
Bro,
nuts.
It's insane because, like, obviously the Braves lineup is so good, but looking at their AAVs is so, like, how the fuck
How
this
did they
happen?
do it? I
'Cause
know.
You got Riley and Olsen at 22 per year. Like, what? Like, that's a steal.
That's
and
for
it's-
both of them. That's a steal.
both
Yeah.
of them. Like, we forget, like, yeah, Riley had a bad year last year, but that's one of those bounce back candidates, no problem. We forget that he's 27 years old right now.
Oh, I know, yeah.
And he's had already a really great career. Olsen and then Ozuna's $16 million per year. Smacked a shitload of home runs last year. They just got Profar for 12.
I think Ozuna was third in MVP votes.
Yeah, literally, right?
Like,
Acuna, $17 million per year. Like, that's insane, dude. Michael Harris at $8 million per year. Again, that's another bounce back candidate. Like, what the fuck?
No, I know.
It's
Like,
it's double A, bro.
it's
I miss
one of
that guy.
it's one of those things where it's a major credit to, like, that graphic was like, okay, major credit to the Braves.
Yeah.
Also shows how fucking insane Soto's gone. It's like
yeah.
both,
Both of
like,
them kinda
because
make it.
ultimately, like, the Braves shouldn't be getting away with that.
I know.
But also Soto shouldn't be getting paid
I
how
know.
much money he's
I
getting
know.
paid. So
Shout out to Double A, honestly. That guy's a beast. He knows, how to run
he
a
knows
ball
his
team.
stuff, man. He really, really does. Like,
Yeah.
you got to give the guy credit. Like, seriously.
Absolutely. Guys, real quick, let's give a shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, Betway. Hit your picks and knock it out of the park with Betway. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to join the action. Must be 19 plus, available in Ontario only. Please bet responsibly. A little bit different today because there's no football and there's actually like not a lot of there's no hockey. There's hockey yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, let's do something different and let's pick American League East outright winner. Now,
Sure.
obviously, I think we could probably take a good guess on who's gonna win, but there's values, right? You got to think about the pot odds right now. You got New York Yankees at 1.9; they're the favorites, right? Obviously, and then you got the Baltimore Orioles at 3.5, Boston Red Sox at 550. Tampa Bay Rays at 10, and then Toronto Blue Jays at 12. We are the worst odds to win the American League East. Where are you kind of sitting right now? What do you think?
I'll tell you what, man. I'm certainly not. I wouldn't be paying for the Yankees because I'm not even doubling my money, and like I don't
Yeah.
think that they're that much of a favorite in my opinion. I think they're probably the best team, but again, they did lose Juan Soto, and I know that they had a nice offseason, but one Aaron Judge injury, and that whole team is
Looks
destroyed.
garbage. Yeah.
And they are still only one season removed from actually having a shit year when they did have a lot of good
When
players on the team.
when they had Aaron Judge hurt.
Yeah.
And then it was
So
garbage.
like for me, I mean, like I get that they're the favorite. I just don't love those odds. I think that the 3.5 on Baltimore and then the 5.5 on Boston speak to me, and it's just one of those ones where okay, you sprinkle a couple bucks, you're okay with losing it, but if you hit it, like you're feeling real nice.
Yeah, I actually really like the Orioles line right here. Like again, they're only 1 year removed from winning 100 games.
Yeah,
so it's
and again, like they're gonna have a shitload of prospects come up. I would anticipate that they're gonna be very active at the trade deadline. And last year,
hopefully they are. You
hopefully,
gotta hope they are. 'Cause
again,
this
like
ownership, we never know.
we'll see how it all or goes down, but I'm thinking so. And last year, for the longest time, they were like neck and neck with New York, right up until like the second week of February, and then they got like or the beginning of February, September, they started like kind of falling off a little bit, but they were like neck and neck, like going back and forth 1-2 all season long. I'd put some money down on 3.5 times.
Yeah, no, I like it. And then like Boston again, like I got hopium there, but I'm not willing to like put a lot of money on that.
No,
so honestly, I like
it's a sprinkle if anything.
Yeah, the Orioles feel like the best odds right there. But if you guys want to go bet on that, then download the app by scanning the QR code or clicking the link in the description, everybody. Let's move on. Let's talk about some other little signings that happened yesterday. Not just rumors, guys. Actual things that happened. One little minor thing, speaking of the Mets, we've been talking about them on podcast. They ink Ryan Stanek. And in my mind, I thought Ryan Stanek was like an absolute beast, and he had a couple good years, like with the Astros, 1.15 ERA with a WHIP of 1.2. I mean, that's solid.
He was good for a while, but yeah, last year wasn't it.
Last year was bad.
Only 16 innings, though.
Only 16 innings. We got traded from the Seattle Mariners to the New York Mets. So he had 39 innings in Seattle, then 16 with the Mets. But he was worse when he got to the Mets.
Yeah.
Apparently, they yanked him back for $4.5 million. I mean, not my favorite move. I mean, it feels like a guy. Maybe you're taking a shot. Maybe you're experimenting. But
okay. Let's put it this way, man. Like, as we're Blue Jays fans,
yeah.
I'd certainly prefer Ryan Stanek over Zach Pop. Or I'm not familiar with the total depth chart of the New York Mets, but Stanek's one of those guys. Whereas, and you know how bullpens work, where it's up and down, volatile, right? Stanek is one of those dudes where I wouldn't be shocked at all if next year he comes out and it's a mid-2 ERA, and that last year it was just like, it wasn't crazy. I wasn't out, but my elbow was acting up a little, and I wasn't really fine, So I like it for $4.5 million. I think it's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean it's a dart throw. He's will be 3 years removed from that really good season. We'll see if he still got it. And I am looking at their depth chart. Obviously, they got Edwin Diaz. He's a stud. AJ Minter was a great signing. We didn't talk about that, but that was a good signing. Very solid pickup for them. He's a pro. He's a veteran. Jose Buto. I actually don't know if that's a Buto. Solid guy. I mean, he looked pretty good last year. Pitched 74 innings and he threw up a 255. That's a lot of innings. Reed Garrett's okay, and then there's when you dip into the kind of the mid. So they kind of have 3 solid guys and an elite guy in Edwin Diaz in that bullpen. I mean, it's good. I think maybe they'll add some additions in the trade deadline, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They kind of added a mid-range kind of middle reliever kind of guy. So that's that move right there. They also got another move. The Tigers add Tommy Conley. I always forget how to pronounce his name.
Conley, yeah.
Canley. I see it right here. Yeah, but I just, I realized Baseball Reference has all the pronunciations.
Really?
On it. Yeah, Kane, Cain, and then Lee.
All right, fuck me. Lee. I was always saying Conley.
Canley, bro. He was a New York Yankee for the longest time. My goodness. That's where we know him from. He had a very solid 3 years with the Dodgers, New York, and the New York again. All sub-3 ERAs, all whips around that 1.1 mark. Honestly, very, very good play. Honestly, a very nice pickup for the Tigers. And I had their, I thought I had their thing here, the Detroit Tigers. Oh, yes. So, dude, their bullpen is very nice, the Tigers. Yep. I'm low-key kind of jealous. They got Jason Foley in the back end. They traded away Michael Kopech. Or no, he was on the White Sox. Forget that. But they traded away some guys prior offseason. They didn't really hurt them at all because they got Jason Foley, Brisek, Tyler Holton. Then they get Canley in there as a solid 4th guy, middle reliever. That's very good. Dude, then everybody in here's got a sub ERA under 3. I'll take a couple guys.
Let me tell you, I'm a little disappointed in the Detroit Tigers though, because
in this offseason.
Yeah, I am. I get it that you're Detroit and you're not. You're still there's still a lot of questions with that team. And what was that miracle run? Was it something that we can build on, or did we just kind of luck into some stuff? But that being said, it's I think for the first time in roughly a decade, for the first time basically since you did have Verlander and Scherzer and, Miguel Cabrera going nuts and all that shit.
Yeah.
First time in 10 years, there's signs of life here. We just got the Cy Young, right?
Yeah,
we have the new Verlander, the new Scherzer, right? This guy could be great for, the next 10 years, right? He was so good. So, I don't know. I'm just a little disappointed that, you didn't go out and you didn't add, some type of hitter. And I know that
they got Gleyber Torres.
Sure, but, does that move the needle for me? Not really. I feel like they're just so, triggered from the Javi Baez signing that, they don't want to go out and blow some more. And I get it that they're not the big market New York or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to see them, and there is still time. Bregman's still on the table, and that was somebody that they were looking at a lot, and whatever. But I would like to have seen them do a bit more.
Yeah, they literally made 3 moves. I'm looking at them right here. It was Mr. Gleyber Torres, and then they also got Alex Cobb, who was a free agent. He only pitched 16 innings. Kind of forgot about him. Must have been hurt last year. But we know Alex Cobb can be very solid, middle of the rotation kind of guy. And then Canley. I mean, yeah, it's not the impact guys that you're really hoping for. That's the thing. You kind of needed to make that impact move. But I guess that Javier Baez thing's weighing you down. They're only projected to get $140 million on their payroll this year. Like there's room there if you have it, but like a lot of teams this year, like all these middle teams that are trying to like break out into the top pack are just not doing it.
Yeah.
It's not really doing it, right?
Speaking of the middle teams, Tampa Bay Rays go out. They had Ha-Seong Kim, somebody that, I actually kind of forgot about. Really solid defender out there. Offensively, hasn't really developed into the guy that a lot of people were hoping for him to be. Again, like, fine, like just fine, and especially in that 2023 year, actually like really good, where he won a Gold Glove and then had like an OPS that was like solid 749.
Yeah,
you look at that and you have a like Gold Glove defense with that as well. You're like, all right, you are a good baseball player. Along with the 38 stolen bases he had that season. Phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
This past year, though, 700 OPS. Only played in 121 games, so I guess he must have got hurt at some point. Still great defense. $29 million goes over to the Tampa Bay Rays. Feels like a Tampa Bay Ray type of guy there.
Yeah, and I'm shocked by the big spend from the Tampa Bay Rays. Like, seriously, this is like average annual value. This is a big spend for those Rays because what do quick math? It's $14.5 million per year, and where they've been kind of offloading a lot of contracts, it looks like they're buying back in. Like they got 13 for him on the books for this year, and then 16 is the following year, and they don't have him right now on Fangraphs because he's injured. But like looking at their lineup, if you had Ha-Seong Kim in the top part of that order, you got Yandy Diaz, Ha-Seong Kim, Brandon Lowe, Junior Candelario. I mean, yeah, they're still kind of meh. But, like, again, like, that's the Tampa Rays way. They got to get their pitching first.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they're always going to be mad. Like, there was a brief moment there where you had, a Rosarena, and you had Lowe when he was going crazy, and you had Wander Franco when he wasn't a fucking villain.
Yeah.
And you had all those guys where it's like, oh, my God, like, Tampa Bay?
Yeah,
do you have a good lineup?
Yeah.
And then, obviously, like, a bunch of stuff happened there, and now it's like, I don't know anymore. But Tampa Bay, they're always going to be around. They're kind of in their rebuild, retool mode. They're gonna, develop. There's gonna be a couple guys that come out of nowhere this year that you're like, oh shit, that guy is in the Cy Young conversation. How did that happen?
Yeah.
Ha-Seong Kim is going to help with that. So, yeah, I like it for them quite a bit.
Yeah, me too. And, I'm looking. Their bullpen is honestly one of the best in baseball. It's crazy. Like and they're a bunch of no-name dudes. You're like, who is Cole Sulser? And who's Mason Montgomery, and why does he have a 1.86 ERA?
Right.
Like, who is this guy? So, yeah, they're going to keep reining it up. And honestly, when we were talking about the AL East predictions, I was like, what if someone just, like, took $10 if you had it to spend and threw it on the Rays?
What was their number again?
It was 10 times. So it only made like 10
See, that's not worth it for me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, like, because I actually had thought the same thing, but I'm like, just not,
I straight up would not be shocked. I've watched AL East baseball for too long. Wouldn't be shocked these guys won 98 games.
Yeah. I could see it because they're just insane. But for 10 times, I need more like 20 times.
If it was 20 times, I might
think about it.
I'd like parlay it with something also kind of ridiculous,
right?
In like another league, like that, or for someone to win a division, like maybe the Reds or some shit, And then it's like, oh, wow, how'd that
crazy
happen?
Stuff, yeah.
So yeah, that guy is a Tampa Bay Ray. That was honestly kind of low-key. He was hoping he could become a Blue Jay, but it is what it is. And then this is a big one. Royals. We haven't really seen them do too much this offseason. They signed right-handed pitcher Carlos Estevez. That's going to really boost that bullpen right now. I'm pulling up their bullpen. Carlos Estevez immediately becomes their closer. They had a guy, Lucas Urseg. He had 14 saves for them last year, but now, I mean, he can kind of fall back into that setup role. Then you got Hunter Harvey. I mean, their bullpen is kind of meh. Like, a lot of these guys kind of suck. That was a big thing for these Kansas City Royals. They really needed some bullpen help, and adding a legit guy like Carlos Estevez certainly is going to help. The rotation is still solid. They got some nice little pieces now. They traded for Jonathan India. We forgot about that whole thing. Happen. Like, now you got India, Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez. Like, there are some things cooking there. But again, same kind of boat as the Tigers, where, like, this was a great move, but it needed to be complemented by some other kind of bigger moves for them to take the next step.
They're not a powerhouse or, by any capacity. I could see them winning the division, but like that team right now is heavily reliant on Bobby Witt doing what he did last year again. And that you're asking a shitload, right? Like you're talking about, honestly, like I think Bobby Witt should have been closer in MVP talks. Like I get that Aaron Judge hit a lot of home runs and home runs are sexy, but when you're talking about being in the 100th percentile in, a shortstop defense, one of the hardest positions to play, 100th percentile, when you're talking about like the stolen bags and the on base and the everything, he
added 9.4 WAR to your team. That's like 10. That's like willing your team to the playoffs.
When I think about the other than Shohei Ohtani because he's fucking crazy, but when I think about the actual best baseball player in the game, it's Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah,
other
all
than
around,
Ohtani,
5-tool best baseball
exactly.
player.
The best athlete baseball player. You could ask this guy to do anything: hit a bomb, steal a bag, make a crazy play, move a runner over, like anything. He will do it. And it's like no questions asked, but they're gonna go as far as he goes.
Yeah, dude, like Bobby Witt, low key, kind of having like a very Hall of Fame beginning of his career. He's already he went 20-30 in 20 homers, 30 stolen bases in his first season, then 30-30 back-to-back years.
I know,
that's
phenomenal.
The
guy is. I genuinely if I had to other than Ohtani, but if I had to pick. Actually, no, that's not true. If I had to pick one baseball player to build my team around, they're you can you're making a draft of all of the baseball players.
I like playing this game.
Bobby Witt Jr. would be my first overall pick.
Yeah, Bobby Witt,
24 years old too.
Yeah,
think about that. 24 years old. He's my first overall.
I would do Bobby Witt. There's also an argument for Paul Skeens as a very good guy to build around. Gunnar Henderson is another kind of guy we forget about a little bit.
I don't forget about Gunnar Henderson. Gunnar Henderson's really good. Dude, he's not this good though.
No, I know exactly. That's the thing. He had a great year last year, but for me, the reason why I forgot about him is because he kind of it's the Orioles. They kind of just sucked in the playoffs again for back-to-backs. They're doing a Blue Jays right now. They haven't won a single playoff game since this whole rebuild dynasty, and that's what's making me forget about him. But yeah, Bobby Witt, one of the best baseball players in the game right now.
100%, dude. Yeah. So honestly, Kansas City will go as far as he goes, but Estevez certainly helps that. That is where we're going to call it today, everybody. So please let us know your thoughts about everything that we talked about in the comments down below. Soon, I think we're going to start transitioning from talking about moves and rumors and all that shit, and let's start doing some team breakdowns. Let's pull a talking baseball. Let's pull a John Boy and start looking at the divisions. Who's going to win? Who's good? Who do we like? Who are some breakout players? I'm really excited for that because baseball is right around the corner.
Yeah, I would love to do that, man. We just got to get friggin' Pete Alonso on a team, Alex Bregman on a team. These guys got to go.
It's all 2025.
All right, we got to figure out what the hell are these teams. So, guys, if you enjoy the content, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Bad for Baseball's YouTube channel, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.